This is an excerpt from The Sound of the Genuine by Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman. There is in you something that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself. And sometimes there is so much traffic going on in your minds, so many different kinds of signals, so many vast impulses floating through your organism that go back the thousands of generations long before you were even a thought in the mind of creation. And you are buffeted by these in the midst of all of this. You have got to find out what your name is. Who are you? How does the sound of the genuine come through you? The sound of the genuine is flowing through you. Now, there is something in everyone that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in other people. And it is so easy for you or me to say, anybody who looks like them, or anybody who acts like this person or the other acts, there simply cannot be any sound of the genuine there. I must wait and listen for the sound of the genuine in you. I must wait, for if I cannot hear it, then in my scheme of things, you are not ever present. And everybody wants to feel that everybody else knows that she is there. When all else fails, when the waves of sorrow and pain in this world make the joy and love feel precarious, uncertain, when the violence and loss make hope feel distant, when everything is just too much to bear, we can find ourselves tethered to the love of the world through moments shared. In these moments, what would it mean for someone to hear the genuine in you? What would it mean for you to hear the genuine in someone else? What would it mean to listen to the heart and remind each other, for even one moment, that you are seen and you are heard in all your worth? Well, it would mean that nobody is alone in what they're carrying, whether it's joy or sorrow. Both listening to the heart also means connecting to the sound of the genuine, as Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman puts it, connecting to our core sense of knowing and being. This kind of listening reflects our Unitarian Universalist values that call us into community, and it is something you do as a community every week in the Time for Joy's concerns and milestones. This community creates a space to listen to what is at the heart of everyone in this community, and it's a moment of connection. So today, I want to take this time to go a little deeper into this sacred act of listening to the heart of ourselves and one another, because we are all holding so much all of the time, and feeling alone in it is truly not an option. Unfortunately, listening isn't always easy. It's hard to give ourselves the time to listen. We hear things day in and day out. We label things good, bad, too painful, too joyful, and then we detach from them a little and continue on our way, because so much of our time requires us to live in our minds, ever moving from one thing to the next. We greet people with, "How are you?" And sincere as that may be, we don't always have the time to listen to the answer. It's a gentle nod towards the recognition of humanity in others. "How are you? I recognize that your experience of the world is unique and equally important to my own. It's beautiful that we greet one another this way." And how do we leave room for more? How can we possibly leave room for more when we are running out the door, or when we're already far too overwhelmed by our days, or when we need a break, a time to let go, when we don't feel capable of holding our own joys and sorrows, let alone anyone else's? Well, I think one of the ways to find that energy to connect is by realizing just how much energy lies in the connection itself. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to bring you back to a moment when I failed to listen. But unlike every other time I didn't listen, I realized it, and it offered me a lesson. This was on a cold, sunny day this fall, right around the shift between 70-degree days and 40-degree days. And my friend called me as I was cleaning my apartment. She told me about her day and the different things going on for her and her daughter. She told me about her car problems that were making her scheduling complicated. She told me about her daughter going to school without a coat when it was cold outside. She told me all of this as I continued to sweep and do laundry. And then she asked me about my day. And I told her about how glad I was that I had time to clean at home. And then we were quiet for a little while. And then we said goodbye and expressed gratitude for the chance to talk, simply talk, to hear each other's voices for a moment. Grateful for the chance to talk. It wasn't until an hour later that something clicked in my head. When my partner got home and we briefly shared about our days, I mentioned with excitement that I had finally gotten to chat with my friend for a little bit. And as I silently recounted the conversation in my mind, I started getting that sinking feeling of embarrassment. It wasn't until that moment that I realized that when my friend called me, I didn't connect with her. I didn't listen to the genuine in her. I took what she said at face value, something she wanted to share. When I listened to her story, I didn't connect it to all that I know about how she relates to the world. Because if I had, I would have realized she had called me because she felt alone in what she was going through. And she felt like her worth was being measured by her ability to juggle everything in her life, her car breaking down, figuring out how to get to work and bring her daughter to school, and then realizing her daughter went to school without a coat on a cold day. She felt judged, and she felt like she wasn't enough. She was looking for someone to sit with her. She was looking for someone to step into her pain with her, and I may as well have been on another planet. And we didn't make that connection. In one sense, I do find this story a useful reminder that we can't always be with someone's pain when they need it. We can't even always sit in joy with someone when they need it. But wow, wouldn't it have made a difference if I had noticed what my friend needed from me, at least, and acknowledged it? But I didn't. And in this moment of realization, I felt distanced not only from her, but from myself. And I felt tired. And I wondered whether I hadn't connected to her because I was tired. Or maybe I was tired because we had talked. Well, it just so happens that later that week, in my chaplaincy internship, we watched a video about listening. And I was offered another lesson. I was actually offered many lessons, but there was one image offered that I found utterly captivating. And it was a story from the Bible about Jesus praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. I realized that this is not the right time of year to tell this story. Today is the first Sunday of Advent. a time of hope. I know, right? A time of hope before new life. Whereas the story of Gethsemane is about pain and anguish before death. But I cannot think of a more thorough metaphor for the human struggle to enter someone's pain with them than this story. In this story, which precedes Jesus's arrest and crucifixion, Jesus takes his disciples into the Garden of Gethsemane and says to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." Then he took Peter, John, and James with him and began to be grieved and distressed. He said to them, "My soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and keep watch with me." And he went a little ways beyond them and fell prone on his face and prayed. Fell prone on his face. Can you imagine how much pain someone would have to be to fall prone on their face? When he went back to Peter, John, and James and found that he went back to them and found that they had done precisely the human behavior when it comes to sticking with someone else's pain. They fell asleep. They avoided it. Then Jesus said to Peter, "So you men could not keep watch with me for 1 hour?" Another way to read that, can you not stick with my pain for 1 hour? Not even 1 hour. There's a lot to preach about this story, but I'm particularly intrigued by the disciples falling asleep. Why did they fall asleep? Why is avoidance so exhausting? Avoidance keeps us from connecting that genuine in us, our hearts, to the genuine in others. In truth, listening to the heart of others is a gift to ourselves in moments when we feel most out of touch with our own needs. If I had been able to listen to my friend, I could have been reminded that my success that day was not dependent upon how well I cleaned. That it's a useful task, but not a measure of my worth. My success that day and all days is felt in the moments I feel connected to my heart, the core of me that radiates love and compassion and sorrow. And this is what I offer you today, an invitation to connect. Because listening to the heart of another gives us a way to access the core of us, the us that exists underneath all of our daily tasks and obligations, the me that exists, the you that exists, the thing that is persistent. Listening to the heart lets us hear the genuine in both of us. And this connects us in our interdependence. Because the only way I can hear the genuine in you is by connecting to the genuine in me. And the only way you can hear the genuine in me is by connecting the genuine to yourself. And it is when you can share and experience pain and tenderness, that is where true joy can emerge. A joy that is shared, a joy that is energizing, a joy that brings us into deeper relationship and even deeper joy. Every time someone tells us a story, they give us a glimpse into the genuine in them. And anyone can take a moment to recognize that. We are gifted a moment of recognizing the genuine in us at that moment too. A moment to recognize that our worth is not attached to our accomplishments. And in that moment lies life-giving energy. We've officially entered the holiday season, which is a complicated time to listen to ourselves and others. This season can be exhausting with emotions running high. We are all holding so much all of the time, and feeling alone in it truly is not an option. So let's not let that be an option. Let's enter it together. Let's find moments to slow down and listen to the heart, because when all else fails, when the waves of sorrow and pain in this world make the joy feel precarious and uncertain, when the violence and loss make hope feel distant, when everything is just too much to bear, we find ourselves tethered to the love of the world through moments shared, through hearts shared, simply and beautifully.